Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 20 of On a Mission Mojo podcast. I met our next guest in January of this year, and I attended one of her master classes where she was using a unique approach to business strategy, and she outlined the business predictions for 2020. And I was so fascinated by her content and so fascinated by the way she approached business that I just had to ask her to come and be a guest on the show. Her approach is something that personally is near and dear to me, but it may be something that you're not familiar with or you're possibly skeptical about. And so I want to ask you just to keep an open mind as we go into this episode and really just believe that you can actually learn something from our guests. So let me introduce her. Her name is Kim Woods, and she is an award-winning business strategist, master astrologer, and best-selling author. Kim combines astrology, ancient feminine wisdom, and her 25 years of C-suite experience to help you become rich and powerful, make big impact, and leave your legacy. As JP Morgan says, and I love this, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Kim uses the stars in strategy to clear your success pathway so you live your soul mission. Kim's been named one of the top female entrepreneurs disrupting the business world by Entrepreneur magazine for her revolutionary Do You Know, Like, and Trust Yourself method. Kim's also been featured in Yahoo News, AP, Forbes, Inc., ABC, CBS, NBC, oh my goodness, USA Today, Reader's Digest, Fox News, Miami and Boston Herald, Market Watch, and Digital Journal for her intuitive approach to life and business. So I think just all of your accolades kind of speak for themselves. So I'm just like dying to dive into this. Why don't you share with us, I guess, a little bit about your mission in the world?
Yeah, my mission is to help you live your soul mission. Because when you're living your soul mission, that's where you get in the flow. That's where you attract people that have your best interests at heart. That's where you can work with your soulmate clients. That's when you are in it's like your best self, right? And that's where like kind of the ways part and the obstacles get overcome and you are in your mojo. And I love the name of your podcast, which I had to say yes, Lori, I had to say yes.
So talk to me, I guess, a little bit about what it means to you to live your soul mission. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So here's the thing. A lot of times we're very intelligent, right? And if you're listening to this podcast and if you're a driven entrepreneur, you have got a lot of passion and you've got a lot of energy and you are constantly looking for ways to grow your business, but also to improve. Right? Because you do want things to be more seamless and to be coming together more easily. And so when you're doing that, you can throw everything into your mind and you can have a really good plan and you can have like all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, but yet you might not be satisfied. Your heart may not be fulfilled, because sometimes I say money's too expensive or success is too empty. And when you're not in your soul mission and you're striving and you're driving and you're doing all the right things, that's when you look in the mirror sometimes and you're just not really, it's not really jiving for you. Your days aren't really flowing. You wake up with less energy than you went to, you go to sleep with less energy than you wake up with. Your days kind of slip into and you kind of slide into the weekend. You're just out of sync. You
Mm-hmm.
may not even know it because it may only be at the fringes, but it does become more and more disparate the further you come away from what your soul has intended you to do.
I love that. That is so cool. And I totally relate to that. I usually talk about like alignment. I think
Hmm.
when you feel like out of alignment, I'm very heart centered business owner, so I'm constantly tapping into my heart, constantly tapping into my intuition, which is why like I feel so aligned with you. Give us, I guess, a little bit about your background and your story, like how you got into doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So here I was, corporate. I was working at Oracle. I loved everything about everything. Had my MBA. I loved business. I loved all the things.
Hmm.
And then, got pregnant with my first child, had my first child, and he had significant developmental issues.
Oh.
So it was a showstopper. It was,
Hmm.
like all my soul was basically like, you're not on the right
Yeah.
path. You may
Right.
have all the trappings, you may have all the success, you may have all everything, but you're really not doing what you're intentionally supposed to do. And so
Right.
sometimes it comes in crisis way and sometimes it doesn't.
Mm.
With my son Nick, it was a semi-crisis. He was young enough that we were able to, kind of stop everything and look at ways to actually be able to help him overcome the issues and not just solutions and strategies. This is why what I said to you earlier, you can come up with solutions and strategies, but unless you get to the core of it, it's said different
Hmm.
words, but same meaning, then you're really not getting to the root of something and overcoming it. You're just masking it. And so with Nick, I said, I don't want solutions and strategies. When the doctor
Mm.
said he wouldn't be able to throw and catch a ball, he wouldn't be able to walk up the stairs naturally, he wouldn't have a normal social life, I was like,
Mm.
absolutely not. We're not doing that.
Right.
And
Right.
so I went to Eastern practices and Western methods because it just kind of happened.
Hmm.
Obviously, my soul was probably, leading me there. But when I saw the results that we were getting, when I saw how he was coming into himself and he had transformative, miraculous results, he is typical. He's a senior in college, tons of
Mm.
friends, normal socialite, great athlete. I mean, all the things. And so, yay,
Wow.
right? I mean,
Wow.
that's
That's awesome.
that's really the important thing, Laurie,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But as that was happening, two things were going on. One is I was still doing business and in a different way because I didn't really have the bandwidth to travel all over the country and work for Oracle. So I started my own business and I had wanted to do a more holistic approach. And at the
Hmm.
time, either I wasn't ready or the world wasn't ready. And so it kind of sort of maybe happened. But what was going on is my life was becoming divergent from business. I was having massive intuitive knowing and very Eastern philosophy in my life. And then in business, it was traditional. And my
Mm.
soul said, no, that's not going to work anymore. Your soul mission is to come out of the spiritual closet. That was
Hmm.
a thing.
Hmm.
And hence like being live on all the channels and being like really out there in all the articles and all the things because I needed to do that to
Right.
shine my brilliance in a way that I could walk into a room and say, yes, I am an astrologer and I'm also a business strategist instead of
Hmm.
hiding the astrology piece and the intuitive piece. And so now I foot everything in the stars. And so everything is preordained, everything is painted, but yet we have destiny because we have free choice. So what I do is I work with business owners to help them determine if they're on their true life purpose, if they've
Hmm.
reclaimed all their power, and if they are in their prosperity flow. Because the indicators that you're not, Lori, are that you're exhausted, you're
Mm.
stressed,
Hmm.
you're dealing with lack, you're having inconsistent, results, you're coming out of meetings and realizing, well, I didn't really get what I wanted out of that. Why not? Or
Right.
my collaborations aren't really fruitful, or I'm not really delegating, or I really don't have great support.
Hmm.
That's all indications that you're not on your soul mission.
Got it. Got it. So let's talk a little bit about like how you use the stars or astrology as it relates to business. Like, what are you looking at? I know there were so many things that you had said in this masterclass. I also took, I think, some kind of a quiz that you have on
You
your
did.
website.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'd love to get into that as well, because I think that quiz and the results of that were really, really cool. So let's
Excellent.
talk first, like how you combine like astrology with business strategy. What are you
Yeah.
looking for?
Yeah, so here's the deal. So what we can do is we can give forecasts. We can do trending, right? So I can help you look whether it's a quarter or a year or a month or a decade or a week, like whatever time frame. I can look at that and I can say, okay, here's what the stars are indicating. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like the big global universal picture. And then I happen to be an economist by, like an armchair economist, but that is my undergrad degree. So I can take the economics trends and I can say, okay, how are the star trends feeding in the economic trends, and what are we doing, because we have levers in economics. We can raise the interest rates, we can put more money into the World Bank, or into the currency, whatever our currency is. So we have choice, right? so
Mm-hmm.
so I can look at those, and then I can look at business industry, because I've been doing this for too many years to count, right? So I've done this on every level, been in every boardroom. And so when I take those combinations, I can give you certainty about
Mm-hmm.
what's going to come up in that time frame. So you can then, for your business, put your strategy against it and say, ooh, you know what? There's going to be a downturn here, or there's going to be a softening here, or there's going to be, this is not a good time to launch or promote. And you can just frame your calendar around that. That creates incredible certainty. The other thing, to
Yes.
talk about the quiz,
Mm-hmm.
I go a level further and I say, we have free will. We have choice. So just because something's preordained doesn't mean it is going to happen, right?
Hmm.
The
Okay.
stars indicated a significant economic downturn in 2020. So yes, I did predict what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But do we know that $6 trillion was going to be pumped into the economy really quickly? Right. So that deferred and softened some things. Great. It was the right thing to do. It was wonderful. And yet, when we look at the combination of both, we have to admit, like, okay, the stars have painted this, but then we have done that. So what the quiz does on a personal level, the quiz says, okay, your stars may be, you're a Capricorn, or you're a Pisces, or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really important, but it's not indicative of how you enter the world, how you set up your routines, how you communicate with people, how you sell or market. The
Mm-hmm.
intuitive quiz is. So even though it's a
Okay.
short quiz, that is all based on astrology. It's all based on chakra system. It's all based on your heart, mind, and will alignment, and based on your signature. That's how you're most apt to enter your day, or a collaboration, or a sales call, or something like that. So that gives you incredible information for you, so that you can say, gee, you know what? I may be a Pisces, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
really operate that way. And that's why my horoscope doesn't really mean that much. And that's why I've kind of distanced myself from that, which is why astrology gets a bad rap, by the way.
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and I, do you remember what your signature is? Because I think I know what I'm up to.
A loving alchemist.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have a very deep way of coming into the world, where I'm an intuitive visionary. I have a very global swath way of coming into the world.
Okay.
Me knowing that you're a loving alchemist gives me the information to say, I'm going to want to be a scattergraph, and I'm going to want to just do whatever, because I love that. But you do not. You want to get into a rich, deep, luscious conversation. You want to
Mm-hmm.
explore things. You are the host of this show. Me recognizing that and always honoring that is really important.
Mm-hmm.
It just is, right? It's
Right.
important for anybody, but it's more important for you as a loving alchemist. You're going to take your time to make a decision, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be really quick at decision making. So knowing
Okay.
these types of things is really helpful when you're, dealing with yourself, but also when you're dealing with others.
So how many, I mean, I took the quiz and so I'm a loving alchemist. You said an intuitive visionary. Like how many different types like are there?
Okay, there are 6 signatures. And so and it does go through my methodology of knowing, liking, and trusting yourself, because it's going in are you more in your mind, or are you more coming through things through connection, or are you more coming things through that control and creation? And that's what's
Let's
indicated.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that know, like, and trust. Because I do think that I think people probably, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, know themselves, right?
Mhm.
The like and trust piece, I think, is very, very challenging for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs. That's been my experience anyway.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like,
And
oh, this is who I am, but I don't really like that I'm this way. Or I don't trust my decisions. I have so many business owners that I work with that they're really just that they're coming to me to validate where they're at. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about, can you take a look at this? And what do you think about that? Like, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure. they need that confidence, and they're looking externally, for that confidence, which I'm fine to help them with that. But ultimately, that know, like, and trust factor has to come from within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I took that original factor of your customers needing to know, like, and trust you to like making it internal and saying, you need to know, like, and trust yourself. Right. So that
Right.
knowing piece does help you make decisions and stick with them only when you're standing in your confidence, when you are, having unwavering conviction. Right. So that liking piece is really about your power. It's about how you walk into a space. 95% of CEOs have a fear of failure or success.
Mm,
95%.
that's a
So,
lot.
this isn't, and yes, and from a female perspective, the percentage is skewed much higher. And so when you think about that, you think, good Lord, how much are we actually standing with conviction and being unwavering?
Hmm.
Probably not a lot. And maybe we are in some circumstances, but not as we're growing, because growth is uncomfortable and it's unfamiliar, and our mind immediately goes and like wants to hold us back. So that's when the self-doubt comes in. That's when the second guessing comes in. And so, in any time somebody's in a period of growth, if they aren't fully trusting themselves, this is where the soul and the heart matter so much, because the soul's like, yippee yay, right? The soul is thrilled to be doing this. The heart is like, finally, and the mind's
Right.
going, oh my God, we're going to die.
Right.
So,
What the hell are you doing? Right. This is danger, danger, danger.
exactly. Which is why I do what I do, because
Uh-huh.
what I tell my high-end clients is use my intuition as we develop yours. As I tell my, in more introductory clients, I say, let's use the stars to give you some more confidence in what's going to happen. Let's use the star power. Like, we could
Hmm.
use the solar cycles or the lunar cycles or some big star events and really harness the power. I do articles based on seasons, based on, where things are, so that people can get more aligned and say, okay, I'm going to use this energy, if you will, and kind of
Hmm.
bolt into it, so that A, I have more, but then B, I feel a little bit more confident about where I am right now and how I'm proceeding and how I'm tracking against whether it's a goal or an expectation or a milestone.
Hmm.
That's a confidence builder, which really super helps.
Right.
And the trusting piece, though, the trusting piece is the money shot, right? That's where the prosperity comes in. That's where knowing without a doubt that you are abundant. That this is why I talk about rich and
Mm.
powerful, and I
Right.
talk about creating rich and powerful leaders, because I say to people, it doesn't matter whether you have $1 in sales for the month or $50 million in sales for the month. You are the same person and you are just as valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. That trust piece is big. Like, any like tips that you can just share of just like, how do you get into that place of unwavering trust for yourself?
Yeah, this is where first of all, it takes practice, right? And
Yes.
it does take a leap of faith,
Hmm.
because what I do tell people is, go back to times when you thought things were going to deteriorate or you thought something was catastrophic, and your
Hmm.
mind typically creates a worse scenario than actually occurs. But the mind is the one that's in leading, and so the mind is the one that's held the story. But if you actually dissect that story, it probably isn't as terrifying or as horrible as you remember it or thought it was.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
what I tell people to do is like construct a map of their milestones or their accomplishments, or even their things that they thought were going to go massively awry, and then be really honest and say, wait a minute, was it really as terrible as I've been imagining? Was it really that bad? Or what did I gain out of that? Because we are
Hmm.
a series of our experiences, right? But
Sure.
our mind is going to weave it in a certain story that may be serving us or not.
Right.
And so making sure that, sure, the story of our experiences is really important, but yet where we are right now and how much we've grown and how much we've accomplished and the things we've overcome. When you hear stories by people, aren't you always aghast? Like, I'm always like amazingly delighted and surprised by the stories that I hear from people,
Hmm.
that I'm in awe of them most
Right.
times.
Yeah. It's like,
Right?
wow. Okay. Wow. You've come so far.
Exactly. But we forget that, because our
Right.
mind is looking for the gap, right? The mind is looking for the like, oh no, what's wrong? And so that's why
Hmm.
I'm saying, get out of your mind, having that more of an opening, having your, connection with yourself in a deeper way is really helpful. So I
Yes.
know for me, a lot of times what people will, they'll gain trust is through the knowing, which is fine. But when they know what's in their stars, or they know their Enneagram, or they know their human design, it gives them more confidence and more of a foundation or a structure so that then they can give themselves permission to be themselves.
Right. It's funny, you talk about that knowing from the stars. When you, in that masterclass that you talked about, and you're going to know more about this. The specific things I remember. You talked about Pluto,
Hmm.
and what Pluto was doing, like in the last part of last year.
Hmm.
And I know for me personally, like I had, just a major breakdown in my business. Like I was like, something is not right. I was where you were talking about in the beginning, of just so misaligned, exhausted, burnt out. Like I just was all of the things, right? And my spouse basically said to me, Lori, you're not happy. You need to fix this. And I'm just like, I don't know how to fix it. I was like going through like major crisis, around, I don't know, October, November
Hmm.
area. And honestly, like once I released that energy, like literally within a week, like everything just started like coming together for me. Like, this is what you got to get rid of. This is the change you got to do. It just like, it literally was so intuitive and so like, it felt very spiritual for me. Like it
Hmm.
felt like it wasn't like I mean, part of it, of course, it was mind, but it's like, it was like getting honest with myself and saying,
Yes.
I don't like that anymore. And this is limiting me. I'm meant for so much more. And just orchestrating change. I think it's about like really being able to be honest with yourself and face those things that you want to say, but you're too afraid to say it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
People are like, like I can't do that. Like one of my clients, she was running a meditation a meditation membership. It was every Monday, and it was a very low price point. And she's like, this just isn't it anymore. She said, I just need to shut it down. So, but people are going to be upset. They love coming. And oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm just taking away X amount of money this month. What am I going to do? And I'm just like, follow your heart. Like, just
Hmm.
follow your heart. Just like if you're knowing your soul is saying, shut it down, shut it down. And the moment she sent out the email to say I'm shutting it down, yes, people were upset, but she's like, I had the biggest weight just lifted off my shoulders.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know it is so amazing to me when it's always difficult to be honest with yourself
Mhm.
because what if you did do something wrong, right? And we're business owners and we've invested time and money and all the things.
Right.
Well, for about a year and a half, I asked myself every day, what if I'm wrong about everything?
Interesting question.
Right? I mean, because I had talked about visibility, at the top of the podcast, and that was coming out because every single day I was asking myself, how am I hiding? And it would just keeps being revealed. So if we ask ourselves these questions that we might be super scared of, I mean, I was super
Hmm.
scared to come out of the spiritual closet. Imagine walking into a business networking group as a master senior level C-suite business strategist. Everybody loves you. They want to talk to you. You walk out with 4 clients all day long. Walk into that same room and say you're a master astrologer. How many side eyes do you think I got?
Right.
Right. And so to be unwavering in that, to be really trusting that, it had to come in like steps, right? So that's one of my messages. It's that things don't happen A to B. When people say, "Oh, I made $40 million in a minute and a half and I didn't spend any time," I'm like, really? If that's true, then maybe you're so superpowerly aligned. That's wonderful. But most likely it took a hot minute to get there, right?
Yes.
Or if it's simple as 1, 2, 3, it's like, I think maybe you had 47 steps before that, and now it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, right?
Right. Right.
So giving yourself the grace of that you know what, we're not going to get everything right. We shouldn't get everything right. Our life is a spiral; it's not a straight line, and that's where the richness comes in. And so when you're totally honest with yourself, but yet you're still a bit afraid, ask the question every morning.
Hmm.
Because it's going to get so, the first time I asked the question, like I thought I was going to like, like literally hyperventilate. What if I'm doing everything wrong?
Yeah. What if, let's just entertain that. What if you're doing everything wrong? Then what?
Yeah. Well, guess what? When I was asking that question, it did take a while to reveal. I was peeling away things. Definitely. Oh, I burned my business to the ground last year, Lori. Business to the
Interesting.
ground, I thought I was going to bring it to the studs. No, I had to burn all of it.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? I just feel like, people, like, I know when I made the business changes that I made at the end of the year, one of the fears that kept coming up for me is like, oh my God, people are going to think you're a flake. They're going to, they're just going to think, what the hell? You're going from this to this. I mean, and I wasn't major changes, but I completely changed my company name. I
Okay.
completely changed all my branding.
Yeah.
And all I could think of is like, people are going to think, oh my God, you're such a flake. You cannot be trusted. Right. And I just kept reminding myself, no, I'm not a flake. I evolve. Like,
Yes.
I change, I evolve. Like, entrepreneurship, life is about evolution. Like, if you are not evolving, you're not growing. Like,
Exactly.
so it was just like, no, I'm not a flake. I'm evolving, and that's okay. And if you think I'm a flake, you're not my person.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
So,
So one of the things my husband said to me, because I had built a big leadership team and
okay.
I'm a leadership person. Like that's where I grew up and all the things. And my whole thing was like, if I change the whole team, then people are going to think that I'm not a great leadership, coach or whatever. Right. Cause
Right.
that's part of what I do. Cause I work with CEOs and I work with C-suite teams. And he was like, they're not going to care. He literally, that's what he just looked at me. He's like, they're not going to care. No one cared. Guess what? No one cared. No one cared.
Right.
Which was beautiful to see.
Sometimes we think that people care more than as much as we do, and they don't.
They don't. They didn't care. And
That's
again, a
harsh
lot of it was
reality.
you had branding shifts, right? So that's like very front facing. Mine was much less front facing than that. Mine
Right.
was more internal team structure. But
Sure.
I did then revamp all my offerings and I revamped how I came into things because it was too heavy. I
Hmm.
hadn't reached the burnout, the exhaustion, the stress phase, but I knew enough. My antenna was going. I'm like, this is too heavy.
Right.
This is just, I'm not thrilled. I'm not delighted every day. I
Yeah.
don't go to bed with more energy than I woke up with. And that's my
Right.
indicator. That's
Sure.
really my indicator.
Sure. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's look at the second half of 20 and talk to me, I guess, a little bit about some of the predictions that you see in the stars, that would help people like just make better decisions, or
Mhm.
just to know like what they might be up against in the second half of 2024.
So 2024 it is all about Pluto. So it is all about bringing everything that is uncomfortable to you up to the surface. Let's just
Okay.
say that whole
All right.
year. Okay, but as we get to the second half of the year, that July to December timeframe, first of all, there's going to be some fatigue because we have massive push forward the first half of the year. So there's
Okay.
just this, like we've taken a lot of action, we've done a lot of things, and so there haven't been a lot of pause moments in that first half of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
as we get into that second half of the year, we're going to want to refortify. And gather and take some time and take some breath and recalibrate. The best times to do that are July and August. And it's
Okay.
not because we're in the Northern Hemisphere and that's summer. That has nothing to do with it. But
Mm-hmm.
what it has to do with is the energetics. There are two indicators that I'm watching that I'm hoping won't be true. This is the thing. We have free will. We can
Okay.
actually not have this be true. There are two shocking things that can happen in the media, in that one in July, one in August. I'm hoping they're not true, and they might not be. But if so, say they are true, then the world is going to just kind of take a collective gasp and just kind of take a hot minute to just pause. It's okay. It's totally
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's more political. It's not, it's not a big deal. I don't mean to make it a bigger deal than it is,
Mm-hmm.
but just for those of us who are looking, and for those of us who are in the States, for those of us who do trade with the States, who have clients in the States, it is going to be something where we're going to be like, what? But again, it doesn't have to be true. So that's great. Say
Mm-hmm.
it is. Then we take that July and August timeframe. We do take a hot minute. We like strap ourselves back in and we say, okay, we're going to be unwavering in the marketplace, but we don't have to be always available. we're going to take some pause moments and we're going to gather ourselves. We're going to take some vacation. We're going to take some relaxation, and we're going to take some time for creativity, because this
Okay.
year is amazing for innovation. And so
Okay.
you've either been innovating and really coming up with solutions that first half of the year, then you're going to want to implement them that second half of the year. Or
Sure.
maybe you haven't, because you've been moving so fast. And like you went through a recalibration and a major shift in 2023. So you don't really need to reinvent yourself right now, right? So you might be getting your
No,
rhythm.
no, don't need to reinvent myself, but I am kind of going through I'm feeling the action and the change. Like I feel like I've gotten so much done in January. It's just
Yeah.
like, holy
Yeah.
cow. Like,
Well, remember I
we're,
said it was boom, boom. Remember I said it was boom, boom. Yeah.
yes.
100%. Right. That's going to continue. Honestly, we have a little bit of a gathering in April, but it's really continuing through June. So that's like boom, boom. There are going to be people that are going to be like, holy cow, I need to take a break. Do it. And
Yeah.
July and August is the perfect time to do it.
Right.
So whether you want to optimize, streamline, get creative, gather yourself, really great. If you want to take the opportunity to be very select about how you are standing in the marketplace, that is a really good time to differentiate yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
really great. And then when we get into September through December, so what I've been saying to people is that is a wonderful time for gathering, conferences, trade shows, retreats, like a multi-series or limited series podcast for you as a podcast host.
Okay.
If you have articles, or if you're going to be participating in articles, great time for contributorship, even if it's limited. Great time for like a capsule, maybe LinkedIn audio or something like that. Really pointed conversation, messaging, what you're so passionate about. Like literally, I've been saying to people, what can't you shut up about? That'll be it. Because think about this. We have so much information coming like every day in AI and all these
I
other
know.
things that we were in information overload times 27, before. Now it's probably going to be times 27 exponentially. And
Mm.
so for us to be able to really mean what we say and say what we mean is going to differentiate ourselves. To use our own words in a way that our heart is, or our passion or our motivation or inspiration is there, is going to be really differentiators. When I look at the second half, so that back half isn't as movement making as the first half of
Okay.
2024. Phew, thank
Thank God.
goodness,
Because we're
right?
probably going to be very tired.
Seeds you planted. So we're looking at seeds you planted in February, and things that sparked in February are going to be getting like massaged and moved all through the year, and you're going to see those seeds, and however they're going to bloom in November, however they bloom. And so you're either going to look at those in November and say, oh yay, I have exactly what I wanted, or you're going to look at those in November and be like, those aren't really mine.
Mm.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
You can do some pivoting. Hopefully you're in the refining, zone, but this is why
Mm-hmm.
I've done so many things at the top of this year, because 2024 is all about setting you up for the next 20 years.
Next 20 years?
Yes, ma'am. Next 20 years.
Wow. Okay. That's heavy.
Yeah. It's because of Pluto. Pluto's front and center. Pluto is going to be in this configuration until 2043. This is the initiation of it. There's some martial energy. What does that mean? That means that you're going to get a beautiful, great big launch of energy. You're going to get some jetpack of fuel. You're going to get an elbow in the face. You're going to get kicked in the head. Like Mars is not a kind energy, and he is basically wrangling with Pluto to make sure you get it right. And that happens between February and the beginning of November. You'll know,
Okay.
and you'll get lots of indications in between that time.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, a lot of our listeners are, mission driven entrepreneurs, founders of, social impact entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations. And, this podcast is all about helping people have visibility in the marketplace.
Yep.
What would you say are like the top 3 strategies that people can use, that entrepreneurs and business owners, thought leaders, whatever, can use in 2024 to build their visibility in their space?
Yeah. So creating your own stage is number one. And that could
Okay.
mean whatever it means. That could be a LinkedIn newsletter. That could be a YouTube Shorts. That could be LinkedIn audio. That could be a Facebook group. That could be a podcast. That could be events that are in person. That could be a great big retreat. That could be a conference. That could be a summit. Like whatever it means to you, for
Mm-hmm.
you to own a stage at least partial of the year. Like the more you can have it be your own stage and have it be continued, then
Mm-hmm.
that's great. So if you are going to do something like a retreat or a workshop or a conference or a summit, make it annual or make it semi-annual. That would be really
Okay.
great because the seeds you're planting this year, like I said, few decades. The reason why having your own stage is so important is because then you get to invite people to you. You get to host it the way is that it feels really good for you and your business.
Mm-hmm.
You get to drive all the things that you want to drive. And because this time is about collaboration and we're not so good at it yet,
Okay.
we're really not. We're not as good at it as we're going to be when it gets to be more familiar. Then when you have your own stage, you can say, okay, I like this timing. My business, this is a great time for my business. I want to showcase these things. I want these people to be on the stage with me. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
really beautiful thing. So that's the number one thing I would say.
Okay.
The number two thing I would say is review the groups that you're in right now. Whatever masterminds you're in, or networking groups, or collaborative groups, or broadcasting groups, or learning groups, or whatever type of group you're in,
Mm-hmm.
really revisit it, because even if it had served you a few years ago, it may not be serving you now because your growth has been so exponential, whether
Okay.
you're aware of it or not. So just and look at it from a very bottom line perspective. Have you gotten business from being in that group? Now,
Okay.
granted, if it's a non-sale group, because it's not a broadcasting group, you're still doing referrals with each other. You're still maybe doing collaborations. Maybe you're power partners. Maybe there's a networking component with it. Ours, is it really actually growing your business, and is it serving you?
Mm-hmm.
Be brutally honest about that.
Right. Right. Yeah,
And
because
then you
those can
can,
take up a lot of your time, and if it's not fruitful and it's not aligned and it's not moving the business forward, then it's better for you to find new groups or group that is going to bring better results.
absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is with the groups, it's just like doing social media posting. You feel like you're doing something, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean you are actually doing something.
Right.
The other thing I would say is it's going to be video all day long. I mean, I'm sorry to say this to everybody.
Yeah.
It's going to be video all day long, even in a growing way, because AI is out there and anybody can just post this unbelievably magical post that is so unbelievably on point, and it may not really be a reflection of them, but it
Mm.
reads really well and they're
Right.
drawing people into their world. Good for them,
Right.
but they're not going to be able to hold those people. So you want to be out there, especially as we get to the end, the Q4 2024, and really through it's going to be through 2025. We're going to start seeing the authenticity really matter,
Ah,
the
yes.
integrity really matter. I know
Did you
it
know
doesn't.
that? Did you know that authenticity was the most searched word in 2023 in the dictionary?
I didn't know that. First of all, I love that. That warms the cockles of my heart, Lori, in ways that
Yes.
you can't even imagine. Because when I was at the top of 22 and I said to people, it's going to be hard to watch over the next 3 years. So that was 22, 23, 24, until we get into 25, because people are going to be able to get away with anything. And they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
getting clients and they're going to be building their businesses. And they may have only read a book and no
Right.
one's going to know the difference. That's
Right.
been the energy. So we're not quite at the end of that yet. I don't know. Personally, I'm a little fatigued about that, but that's fine. But this is why I'm doing video. When you do video, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking, the words are coming out of your mouth. Even if you're
Right.
reading a script, people can feel your energy. They can
Yes.
watch your enthusiasm. They can relate to you. Video is always going to be number one. I don't know when it's not going to be number one, as a matter of fact. So if you're having
Yeah.
trouble being visible, just take it slow. Take it one step at a time. Do something in a group that you have. Do something that's only 30 seconds, or do
Mm-hmm.
podcast, or write an article, or there's so
Right.
many ways you can be visible. We don't have to all be doing TikTok and making these, Hollywood level edited professional videos.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. 100, 1000% that video is hot. I also think that podcasting
Yes.
is going to be hot. So I think between the two, and the great thing about podcasting is you can get all kinds of video clips from your podcast episode. So whether you're a guest, whether you're a host, video comes out, and I agree with you. I've seen just even like what you talked about with people getting away with everything. Like I have so much business this past year came to us, and people were like, oh, I hired this one person and they did this. And now it's like, okay, now we have this mess to clean up. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, really? Like this person did this? Like, oh my gosh. And they charged you that for this? Like, it's so sad. Like it really is so sad. But it's fine. I think I just have always remained true to being authentic and being very heart centered and honest. I'm very honest and direct. I'm not going to tell you something that you want to hear just to earn your business. That's not who I am. So,
Absolutely. I agree. I have a term that I use with some of my, more colleagues or whatever. They're more friends than clients, that overcoached. The overcoached saturation level is at an all-time high.
Right.
And that's okay. Here's the deal. People are looking for direction. They're looking for the best way to do something. They've overinvested, or they've taken 3 wrong turns, and they don't want to take a wrong turn. So of course you're going to be looking for that expert in that area. But the question, so here's the greatest tip I can give anybody at any given time, Lori.
Let's do it.
Ask yourself whether that person has your best interests at heart. That's the question. The person has the expertise, the person might have a great business model, whatever. But if they don't have your best interests at heart, they're not your person.
Right.
That's a big question.
Yes,
that's
it is
a big question, right? Because like you, I'm not always going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to be super honest with you. It's not always going to be easy. There's some things that you're going to have to dig deep and do. There's some things you're going to have to change. You're going to be uncomfortable. When anybody's doing, I do transformation. When anybody's doing transformation, that's the story, right?
Right.
And so if somebody's coming up and saying it's 1, 2, 3, like super easy, it's a lie.
I agree.
Call it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of that culture out there of, oh, I made, $100,000 per month in my business in 7 short months. And it's like, no, I don't believe that.
Yeah. And even if they did, well, there's a lot of double counting of sales and not actually revenue. I mean, there's a whole, my background is finance. There's a whole thing that you can gamify, and that's fine. And, and if you're one of those people that have followed those people and you know what, you went from $10,000 a month to $20,000 a month. Yay. Good for you. That's wonderful.
Exactly.
You won, right? Like you won the ball game, right? But I do agree with you, Laurie. It's what I get a lot is because, astrology, right? And business strategy. I've been doing this for decades. Somebody read a book, somebody did something in their own business, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I do astrology plus strategy too. Okay. Yes, you do. Maybe a little bit, and maybe you've toe dipped. You certainly know more than the person in front of you. But if you're hiring an expert, the expert should always know more than you do. So that's the thing. That's why the question is, do they have your best interests at heart? Because the person should always be the expert, right? But if they're asking you questions like, what works for you? What have you tried in the past that hasn't worked? How do you feel about this? How can I help you? How can I best support you? That person is really thinking about you. And not just thinking about, oh, I've got a sales in front of me. This person's successful. I can leverage XYZ. I'll get a testimonial. I'll get money. And away I go.
Yep. Absolutely. All good stuff. Such good stuff. Let's, as we come to a close in this episode, and there was so much value in this episode, I just always like to ask guests the same question. And maybe people get tired of hearing the same question, but I love it anyway. And that is, what is your mojo or your magical superpower in this world? And how do you maintain that so that you are always operating like at your best, or at least majority of the time?
Yeah. So my magical superpowers, I channel. I literally am going to be channeling the voice of your soul when I work with you. And I do it in master classes. I do it in some lives, it depends on what my container is. And so what I always say to my clients or people in my audience, it doesn't matter that I know, it matters that you know. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what the gifts that I have is that, yes, I can channel, I can do all these things, but honestly, Laurie, who cares? Like, unless I'm giving you the information that you're needing in that moment, unless you adopt it and integrate it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a crazy person over here talking about things, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, having a very high level of expertise, not only in business but in the intuitive space, and having virtually no ego about it, I do think that that's a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I maintain that? Well, first of all, I always have a surprise and delight outlook. I'm always about wonder, and I'm always asking a question and not really seeking an answer. But I also take a lot of time and space for myself.
Okay.
So I live near the beach. I love to cook. I love to garden. I mean, I really know what fills me, and I
Sure.
take those moments. The stage I am in my life, my kids are in college. I have those moments that I can take those. So
Mm-hmm.
I've orchestrated my life and my business, which I hadn't, which I was working way too much, which is
Right.
why things became heavy. And so I've now recalibrated and I've organized my life so that I can have these delicious moments that I can just sink into space and just be me, because that's how I'm going to
I
be at my
love it.
best.
Yeah, absolutely. So good, so good. I just want to say thank you. Again, I'm honored that you are a guest on my show, and I love you. You are doing such amazing stuff in the world, and I will just continue to absorb all of your content on LinkedIn.
Yay!
Okay. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.